Welcome back, everyone. You've watched training videos, you're an expert now, so let's get cracking. All right, so again, make sure that you are logged in. Get to Onshape on your browser, and the first thing that we're going to do is create a blank document. And of course, everybody remembers that from the training videos, right? Yeah, right. Okay, so let's go through it. If you're looking at a screen that looks something like this, here is where I can either open documents that either I have created or that have been recently opened or that somebody else has shared with me, or even go out and search for public documents. Here is a row of documents that I've opened recently, and here is all of the documents that quote I own. And what we're going to do now is we're actually going to create a new document. So follow along, and it's create new document. And we're going to title this thing, and I'm just going to call mine first part and click OK. It'll take a few seconds depending on your browser speed, and you should arrive at something like this. Over on the left, we have this indication that we're building a part that's one piece of something. So if you're holding a book in your hand, one of those pages would be a part. All right. So what we're going to do is cover a few fundamentals here. So the first thing I want to talk about is, if you haven't become familiar with, is how to navigate inside this graphics screen. I believe that the videos talked about this view cube. So this view cube shows me the X, Y, and Z coordinate system, right? This is a 3D coordinate system that we're looking at in this white space. This little dot in the middle is the origin at 0, 0, 0. And I can change my views by clicking on different faces of the cube or clicking on these arrows. I also, what I want to highlight is I can zoom in and out. So you're going to need to figure out how that works on your mouse. I have a wheel in the center, and so I'm rolling my wheel back and forth to zoom. When I roll the wheel toward myself, it's as if I'm pulling some kind of window away from the part. When I roll toward it, it's as if I am rolling this window that I'm looking through toward the parts, so it appears that the part's getting closer. If I push my mouse wheel down and hold it and scroll the mouse a little bit, I am rotating this coordinate system, or what I'm looking at. And I'll leave it here. Notice that I have 3 blue objects here. These blue objects are called planes, and they are the default pieces of geometry that come in with a blank screen. So notice where I have the front plane, the right plane, and the top plane, they all intersect right at that point of 0, 0, 0. And I want to highlight how to notice I have all of these planes selected. I did that by clicking on them. If I click a second time, they're not selected. To unselect everything that I have selected, I press the space bar. And I'm back to looking at my graphics screen with nothing selected. To move these objects across the screen, I press and hold Control, my middle mouse wheel, and hold the mouse wheel down, and then scroll my mouse around on my mouse pad or my desktop. Okay. You need to spend a little time working on that and understanding how your mouse buttons work in your browser. One key thing to understand is that the workflow for modeling is that I need to draw some shape on a 2D plane. So it's as if I need to draw on a desktop. What's unique here in Onshape and all our 3D software is that I can pick whichever flat surface I want to draw on. Okay. So let's create a really basic item here. So I want to draw on this top plane. So I'm going to navigate to my view cube and click this top. And I'm looking straight down on this 3D coordinate system. And over here in this feature tree, I'm going to click on top. Notice my top plane becomes selected. And then I'm going to right click while my mouse is hovering over the top in my feature tree, and then click on New Sketch. So back to this workflow idea. I need to create a sketch, and then once I'm done with that sketch, I can promote that sketch into the third dimension. I can create a solid part. So let's get going with step one. So new sketch. I get this little box here that says I'm working on a sketch. The name of my sketch is sketch 1. I'm sketching on the top plane. So no matter what I draw, it will be on this plane somewhere. And by the way, this plane actually goes infinitely in all directions. So if I'm drawing out here, it's still on that plane. Okay. So when I entered the sketch, my commands along this command bar or menu bar changed. All of the commands now are relevant to sketching. So I'm going to do something really basic, and it's good to follow along. I'm going to create a command that says I want to create a rectangle. And notice I've got a couple options here. I'm going to choose this option called Center Point Rectangle. And my cursor changed from this little icon to some crosshairs. And I'm going to bring my crosshair over that origin point, and notice the origin point transitions to this really ugly orange. I don't know who designed this software. Nobody asked me though. So once it's hovered and I have an orange preview, I'm going to click on it. And now as I move my mouse away from the origin, I can see that I'm creating a rectangle. And I'm going to, let's say, create a rectangle, click it into place, and I'm going to click into this white box now. Currently, the length of my rectangle is 8.3 something inches. Oops, I got another rectangle. So when let's see here, click on this rectangle. Yeah, so we'll cover this each step as we go. I kind of lost the opportunity there to size my rectangle as I created it. So I'm going to put some dimensions on the two sides of my rectangle. And when I do that, I'm going to get an opportunity to change that value. So I'm going to say I want it to be 2 inches high. And notice when I enter the 2 and press enter, the size of the box changes. I'll place a dimension on this side, and I'll enter 4, and the box gets shorter. Notice the 2 doesn't change. So I'm going to press the space bar so I know nothing's selected, and notice that when I hover over dimension text, I can drag the dimension just so that it's in a reasonable place for what I'm looking at on the screen. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to create this box. And so now that I have a box, I'm going to tell Onshape that I am done sketching. And I'm going to click the green check mark here. And a couple things happen. Notice my dimensions went away. Well, they really didn't go away. They're just part of the sketch, and any text or dimensions that are in that sketch disappear when I exit the sketch. Well, there's the sketch. And now I'm going to rotate this a little bit, and you can see the box that I drew, I should say rectangle. And I'm going to do one last thing. I'm going to come back over to this sketch, right click, and say I want to edit it. In other words, I've created it. Let's say I want to change something now. So I'm going to click edit. Notice the sketch comes back, but I'm not looking straight down at it. And notice that even the dimensions are on this top plane. So if I wanted to change the value of this dimension, I can double click on the text and say I want it to be, say, maybe 2.5 inches. The box changes size. Okay. So I can create a sketch. I can finish sketching. And if I want to later, I can come back and edit that sketch that I have created. Okay. So, of course, sketching is cool and everything, but that's not the purpose of 3D software. The purpose of 3D software is to create solid models. So let's do that as this first piece. So I'm going to tell Onshape that I want to promote this sketch 1 into some 3D shape. And this first icon up here in my menu bar is extrude. And I'm going to click this command. And right away, we kind of already see a preview here. I'm extruding my sketch 1. The option that I've selected that came up as default, by the way, is blind, and I'll leave that. And it's extruded up 1 inch. So let's just say we're going to extrude it up, how about 3.25 inches. And then I'm going to click the green check mark. It got taller. It's 3.5 inches tall. And I have a 3D shape. Notice as I rotate the screen, you can kind of see the color changing. Inside of Onshape, there are some assumed default lights so that we see different lighting conditions on different faces of the part. It helps add some realism. Okay. So let's do one more complex thing, but I'm already running a little bit long here on this video. So I think what I will do is close out this session, make sure that everybody in class gets a chance to get caught up, and we will come back in the next session and modify this part with some other commands. Hope this is helpful, and I hope you're enjoying the ride.